Welcome, everyone, to the 2026 Women of Color Leader Symposium. I am so excited to introduce you to our next speaker, Zoë Flowers. Zoë is going to talk to us about today soul requirements. But before I turn the floor over to Zoë, I'd like to share with you a little bit about who she is. Zoë Flowers is a multidisciplinary artist and energy practitioner, helping leaders and creators navigate pivotal moments with clarity and authority. For more than 20 years, her work has lived at the intersection of art, advocacy, and spiritual practice. Zoe sees patterns early and names them clearly, helping others prepare for change rather than react to it. She is the author of From Ashes to Angel's Dust, A Journey Through Womanhood, and the host of Come to the Brink with Zoë Flowers, a podcast exploring who we must become to navigate grief and loss. It is a pleasure for me to turn the floor over to Zoë. I am so excited, my sister. Thank you so much for being here. And audience, just lean back and enjoy. Let this be a blessing to you. Thank you, Zoe. The floor
Thank
is
you.
yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Hi, everyone. I hope that you are enjoying the symposium. I'm Zoe Flowers. And before we start, again, as Santa said, this is our time. So let's just make sure that we're comfortable, we're cozy. Maybe you have some coffee next to you or some tea. So just like settle in as we have this conversation, okay? All right. So, soul requirements really came to me. I'm actually going to go back here. Soul requirements really came to me several years back as I was thinking about something that I could offer to the world. At that time, I was thinking specifically to people working in the gender based violence movement. What was a way that I could actually provide something that encouraged advocates, executive directors, community leaders to look deeply at different areas of their life and really try to figure out what's being met. Are we meeting our soul's requirements? Are we meeting our ego's requirements? And no shame to the ego. The ego definitely has its place. So I'm not one of those like anti ego people. But we know that sometimes it can get out of control and then we can get out of harmony and find ourselves locked in fear and protectionism. And so these questions came to me, this model came to me literally when I was driving to work. And I've done it so far with lots and lots of advocates. So I'm offering it to you today. So the questions are created to give you a glimpse into your soul's requirements, as I said, your ego's requirements as well, and your overall feeling of awareness and connectedness to other people and also our physical world. And these questions are solely for you. I'm going to close my window. Hang on 1 second. They're solely for you. And so, what I invite you to do, and you will have an opportunity to take the test at the end of this conversation, is to answer each question honestly without overthinking. Just write what comes to you first. Of course, there's no right or wrong answers. Again, this is like just a glimpse of where you are today or whenever you take the test. And then after completing each section, I want you to pause and just ask yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, how aligned do I feel with this section? And again, just trust to the first number that comes into your head. So, section one, each section has 11 questions. You should be able to move through it very quickly. And so, section one asks, I feel like I am living with purpose when I am. And so for me, I would say I feel I am living my purpose or living with purpose when I'm in community, when I'm doing healing work, right? So again, first thing that comes to your mind. And then I ask, I feel excited about my dreams and my future, often, most of the time, or hardly ever, right? Helping others in some way is something I would do for the rest of my life. That is a yes no question. And again, you'll see this in the online format. Question 5, I'm really good at. What are you really good at? And what makes you happy, right? And then towards the end, we love this question. If money were not an issue, I would do what? And I have to say, my answer has definitely changed over the years. So that's actually one that I'm struggling with because I took the test myself a couple of days ago, and so that one I have a little bit of a struggle with right now. I'm still trying to figure that one out. And then when do you feel least alive, right? So we have when do we feel most alive and when do we feel least alive. So that's section 1. Section 2 is kind of the same. It is a mix of short answer and long answer, true and false questions. So when do you feel most like yourself? When do you feel most like a fraud? And, as leaders, so many of us, when I talk to leaders, being a leader myself, we're always in this conversation about imposter syndrome, right? And for me, I always say, I don't feel like imposter syndrome applies to women of color because most of us are in companies and positions that weren't meant for us to be in anyway. So I always feel like I can't be an imposter in a room that wasn't made for me. The fact that I'm in it means I belong. I belong there, right? But again, when might you feel most like a fraud? And then we have some other questions about how often do you tell yourself the truth? How often do you not tell yourself the truth, right? True or false? It's okay to do nice things for yourself. Is it? Isn't it? Right? When you're uncomfortable, you feel it in your wherever you feel that. And what I would say is once you write that answer down, maybe take a deep breath in, exhale out, go to that part of the body where the uncomfort is or the discomfort is, and maybe just see, sense, or imagine sending some love to that area, right? So this self inventory, I like to call it, also gives us the opportunity to do some in the moment somatic work, right? And how connected do you feel to other people? And how connected do you feel to a force larger than yourself? That's section 2. Section 3, I feel fearful even when I'm not in danger. How often does that happen, right? As a survivor of domestic and sexual violence, and as Santa said, as somebody who's worked in that field for, at this point, 26 years, some of us have that. We'll be sitting perfectly safe, nothing's happening, and yet we feel a sense of fear, right? Even though there's no imminent danger. So I want us to really track that. How often does that happen? And how do you feel when you can help someone? And how do you feel after winning an argument, right? Question 7, what are you afraid of, right? Question 8, how, again, it's that question of how often are you telling the truth to yourself? And then question 11 is kind of like that money question that we had in the other section. What would you do if you weren't afraid of being judged? Right? That inner critic. What would you do if that inner critic was silenced? So those are the questions. That is the inventory. And then afterwards, I invite you to answer which section felt easiest to answer. Were there any questions that elicited a strong reaction? Did your highest score surprise you in any way? What does the lowest score want from you? You will be able to answer all of this within the online format of the quiz. And then a closing reflection question. If I were living in deeper alignment I would begin by what? So I always like to take things in small, tiny bites. So, what's one small thing you can do? I don't know, in the next couple of days, in the next couple of weeks, in the next month, to live a little bit deeper in your alignment. Maybe you want to align to leadership in a different way, right? Maybe that might mean signing up for a leadership course. Maybe you want to feel more in touch with the physical world. Maybe your numbers elicit that you have a deep desire to connect to the physical world, but you're not doing it. So what's one small step that you can do? And then I just want to reiterate that these are little tiny glimpses into the energy that's present in your space right now. Your answers and your requirements can change at any moment. So we don't judge over here. We don't judge ourselves, right? Understanding that, like so many things in life, our answers exist on a continuum. So you see, we have this continuum here where we have the ego at the left side and we have the soul at the right side. Those are the most sort of extreme ends of the continuum. And depending on the day, is going to depend on where you fall when you answer these questions. You might find on the continuum that you're lingering between the middle ground and extreme fear or extreme protectionism, or you might be between the middle ground and a high sense of awareness, right? We'll see. So I also created these soul charts, right? So you have your numbers. Your numbers are going to give you some information. And when you take the test, it's going to tell you what each number means. I didn't put it in here because, I want you to be able to take the test without sort of having any preconceived notions about what each section means. So let me just say that right out the gate. Okay. So the soul charts is also a part of this. And this is probably one of my favorite parts of this model. So this is my soul chart. When I first took this test or self inventory. So for me, the very top of my pyramid, my number one soul requirement is engaging with spirit through art. Right under that is feeling safe and secure. So again, that goes back to my survivor story, right? Right under that is activism, making a difference. Under that, authenticity, relationships and situations. Under that, sistership/fellowship, learning and sharing spiritual truths. And then at the bottom, exposure to new things, change and travel. Now, it's at the bottom, but it's not really the bottom because I'm always exposing myself to new things. It's actually really important to me, but change and travel, like I'm in a new country. I love to travel. But within the context of this particular inventory, it just so happened that it was one of the last, in quotation marks, priorities. So you might find that as well, right? And then this is a sample ego chart, okay? So now this is a sample. So you might take the test and find out that money is at the top of the chart. And that could go with that security or safety. Some people equate making money with safety and security, and there is some truth to that. And then right under that, it could be a need to be liked, a need to be right, a need for validation, fear and doubt, and suspicion and judgment of others. So this is what it can look like when we're leaning towards the ego side. And again, we could find ourselves in many different places on any given day, right? So those are the soul charts. And so when you get this PDF or whatever format you're going to get this in, I encourage you, based on your answers, to make your own soul chart. So, what's most important to you and what's least important to you after you take this test. And hopefully, you'll find some very interesting things. Or maybe you'll get some confirmation on what you already believe. So, what's in it for you? Well, if you know that your soul requirements are engaging with spirit through art, being around like minded people, activism, and travel, which is me, the activities that I engage in, how and who I spend my time with are going to fit my soul requirements. Excuse me. And I have to say, since I developed this model, this is what my life looks like now. I have restructured my life completely to fit my soul's requirements. So, because if I'm being authentic, right, it's gonna change things. And so I'm being motivated by my soul. If they don't fit my soul requirements, then am I being motivated by my ego, right? That's sort of the question here. Am I truly moving towards my soul, or am I just doing things that, out of fear, out of protectionism, etc., which is typically corresponded to the ego, right? So then we have some reflection questions. Is my way of being in the world motivated by fear or kindness? Are my beliefs influenced by fear, resistance, love, or kindness? There's a lot of conversation about resistance. We love talking about resistance. However, in my belief, we say what you resist persists, right? So again, just gauging where you are. And then here's another question. How can I embrace my soul requirements in my relationships, sexual expression, finances, and my career/job? And conversely, how can I ensure that I serve the healthy needs of my ego in my relationships, finances, on my job/career? So those are some additional reflection questions that you will find in the quiz. And now I invite you to take the quiz. And yeah, that's what I have. Thank you so much.
Hey, Zoe, thank you so much for walking us through this soul requirement quiz, how important it is for us to be aligned. I want to ask you, Zoe, what do you think what do you feel, what do you sense is the primary benefit of being in alignment and being in authenticity? If you would share that with us.
Yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
you.
And I just want to share with you too. This is when you hit the link. This is the screen that you should see, and that'll let you know that you're in the right place. So I just wanted to show that to you really quickly.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Gosh, what's the benefit? Well, I would say a lot of us are, and a lot of this has to do with trauma, right? Trauma.
Unfortunately, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, yep, yep.
Trauma can lock us into a certain way of being where we are just going through the motions.
Hmm.
We stay in relationships because they are familiar. We stay in relationships that we don't like and the people don't like us. And we probably know that. We probably feel that. But
Hmm.
we're just so used to, well, this is my childhood friend. We always roll together. So I can't live without her. Right? So that can be just a way of being, and it can also be fear. And
Hmm.
so I look at it as, if I can gently move those types of things that are not really fitting my soul requirements, if I can move those things out of my way
Hmm.
and lean more into my authentic self, then my life is only going to be the richer for it. And sometimes, again, we're so locked in, especially as leaders, to how things have always been, how things have to happen, that we are missing so many
Mm,
rich and
mm,
juicy
mm.
experiences.
Thank you. Absolutely. And it's wonderful that we get to have a tool that can set us free. Here we are, right, at the Freedom Reset for Women of Color Leaders. And there comes Zoe saying, you know what, there is a direct way to begin to free ourselves of the conditioning, of the mapping, of the expectations we've had of ourselves based on what others think we should be doing and based on who we are in our environment. So thank you so much is really encouraging to know that we don't have to spend a whole lot of time to get onto our soul requirements and to begin to live into them. Not assuming that it's easy, right, Zoe?
No,
But we need to jump on.
it's
We
not.
need to jump on the
It's
train,
not
get into
easy.
the journey, get going at some point, right?
Yeah.
So yes, thank you. Say, please
Oh, I
say.
was just gonna say one step at a time, right? Like we don't have to
Absolutely.
burn the whole house down, right? We could just maybe burn one little part, maybe just the
Yeah,
front
yeah,
porch, right?
yeah,
Just
yeah, yeah,
one
yeah, yeah.
step at a time
That's right.
towards
That's
a
right.
more
That's right.
authentic experiences.
Absolutely. I like to add to that, like just burn one picture at a time, go to the fireplace,
Just
in a
burn.
pot, over the stove, right? Whatever you can manage, that's going to resonate with
Yeah.
that soul that you're wanting to free. So, Zoe Flowers, thank you so very much.
Thank you.
How do people reach you, Zoe? How do we get in touch with you?
Yeah. So I'm very easy to find. Yeah, I'm really, really active on YouTube. I am Zoe Flowers. I mean, I am Zoe Flowers everywhere. So my website is I am Zoe Flowers, IAMZoeFlowers.com.
Excellent, excellent,
My Instagram is the same. My
excellent.
podcast, Come to the Brink with Zoe Flowers, you can find on all the major podcasts and even some of the not so major podcasts. So, yeah, I am Zoe
Wonderful.
Flowers. You'll find me.
Easy to find.
Easy to
Thank you
find.
so much, Zoe, for your offering and audience. Stay tuned. There's more to come. And just enjoy. Take care of yourself. And thank you for being at the 2026 Women of Color Leaders Symposium. Be well.
Yes.